So would you say that with all that you dated down during that campaign or before the campaigns, and what you have in your sight and sound of renewed hope, is it aligning with the current realities?
Well, before the inauguration, we had a critical look at the manifesto. I subscribe to the narration that the average man in the street should witness an immediate succor. One, by doing two things: government coming up with an intervention as form of investment, then the common man on the street having a departure on the reliance or over-reliance on PMS economy. So that means...
Okay, so help us break this down into bits and pieces, because it looks like big English for some people, some of our viewers. Let's begin this conversation taking our quote from Naomi Chomsky, who is an American professor, a public intellectual. Once said, "Everyone's worried about stopping terrorism. Well, there is really an easy way. Stop participating in it." All right. We'll take our next quote, and this one is from George Walker Bush, an American politician who served as the 43rd president of the United States from 2001 to 2009. He once said, "One of the hardest parts of my job is to connect Iraq to the war on terror." Okay, our last quote is from Hubert Labelle, who is a Canadian retired civil servant, who once said, "Fighting corruption is not an end in itself, but there is a fight for social justice, for peace, and for security." All right, let's see what and how this quote relate to what we will be discussing tonight. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabel Orji. Now tonight, we'll turn our attention to Nigeria's spate of insecurity, and then I heard people say that insecurity has reduced drastically since the new administration. But then some other persons say it's tied in religion and ethnicity, but I refuse to agree to that. But then we'll discuss this, plus the Niger Coup and ECOWAS resolutions. This and more we will be discussing tonight with my guests. We have two guests on the show today, and my first guest is Ibrahim Mujtaba, IT and development expert and convener of Sight and Sound of Renewed Hope. And my next guest is Comrade Iberedem Eshiet, who is team lead Get Involved Nigeria initiative. We'll start this conversation after this quick montage. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now let's go straight to our conversation for tonight. And we have two guests in the studio. My first guest is Ibrahim Mujtaba, who is an IT and development expert. It is great to have you on the show again.
Thank you very much, Annabelle.
Great. All right, my next guest, he's also the convener of Sight and Sound of Renewed Hope. And my next guest is a pastor and a comrade at the same time. Have you seen a pastor and a comrade at the same time? Well, we'll get to know how you become a pastor and we no go agree kind of. Anyways, my next guest is Iberedem Eshiet, who is team lead Get Involved Nigeria initiative. Great to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So I think we should just start at that. How do you become a pastor and then a comrade? Because most people will be like, comrades in Nigeria, it's you are today, we no go agree, and then tomorrow we just decided to shoot our swords. And then being a pastor, you cannot just be standing in or sitting in that fence.
Thank you very much. Comradeship, it's beyond what people do, their bosa and all of that. So everyone is a comrade. If you have a way of seeking for the right of the people and saving the people, you are a comrade. So it's not limited to going for struggles outside. It's not limited to students.
Okay.
It's a broad-based duty for everyone.
So
even as a pastor, I am proud to say I'm a comrade.
So do you agree when people say that most comrades in Nigeria, they are always not agreeing to a lot of things in the morning, but then in the evening time, they just, is to your turn to Israel, we decided to shoot our swords?
That is because they misunderstand. They have shifted from their normal responsibility as comrades to going to seek for, to have a pocket understanding. So if they have what they're agitating for, and when they get to the breach, there will be a certain negotiations, and they will say, okay, at this point, this is what we can go home with. So they give it out.
So you agree?
No, I don't agree to that. I don't agree to that. My own perspective is completely different.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's go straight to our conversation for tonight, and then we'll start with you, Ibrahim Mujtaba. I know we've talked about sights and sound of renewed hope, and then now we're talking about security in Nigeria, or insecurity as the case may be. And I hear a lot of people say that someone came to ask me and saying that did you realize that since after the elections there's a drop in the spate of insecurity in Nigeria? Do you agree that the spate of insecurity in Nigeria has dropped, or probably we've dropped on the amount of news that we decide to record and put out there?
Well, actually, it depends on where you're looking at. First, definitely the sphere of insecurity has drastically dropped.
It has.
The reoccurrence, especially kidnapping, and to some certain effect, banditry has dropped a bit. But that does not mean that, okay, we're no longer witnessing such occurrence here and there. If you want to look at it from a general point of view, Nigeria as a country over the years has managed to kind of face different form of insecurity or challenges, so to say, economic, climate, global upheavals, and so to say, and the likes. But relating it now, what the current events unfold, you find out that, okay, there are some unexplored areas of interest that we generally as a people have not really paid attention to. Sometimes we look at it that, okay, it's government's responsibility, and perhaps it's our duty responsibility on the other angle.
But isn't it government's responsibility though? Okay,
in a general perspective, it's a government responsibility. Okay, the federal government has the sole mandate, as constituted, to protect lives, properties of Nigerians, irrespective of where they live. Even starting from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which each member nation, is agree or assented to that. You as a region or as a country need to protect your life, so it's your primary duty. But why I say it's always it's also our duty is because it concerns us in the community. There's some fact, it's a fact that there are some things that, okay, we see that's facing us right there at the community level, but we tend to have that perception that it might be government responsibility. So we tend to then witness the reoccurrence of such kind of events, be it economic, security challenge here and there. But on the other hand, it's government responsibility, but as a stopgap operation. Other things, peace sustenance, to ensure that there will be no reoccurrence, it's our collective responsibility. Yeah.
When you talk about reoccurrence, you mean like reprisal attacks that you find?
Well, not reprisal. Insecurity generally, it's a broad element. Now, if I want to look at it from our national security strategy, the one that was revised in 2019, we know we have an initial one in 2014 when we started witnessing, the Arab Spring brought so many instability in the sub-Saharan region, proliferation of weapons, border organized crime, we're part of that region, and Nigeria is not exclusive. So we came up with that, when I say we, that's government, that national security strategy in 2014. After 5 years, we reviewed it to 2019 based on the challenges that have changed. So part of that document recommended some of the things that we need to do. First, as a government, as even MDAs, some of the plans that will boost our growth and development, and also our value system, also some of the things that we need to do in the community. So it's a well coordinated strategy, which implementation has to do with other plans and documents. It started with the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, but now, okay, after the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, we have the Sustainability Plan. We now currently have the National Development Plan. So its success has to do with other activities of government, including civil society organizations.
All right, we'll come back to that again. But then let's talk to you, Comrade Iberedem. Would you actually agree that the spate of insecurity has drastically dropped? Because I recall how much we always talk about kidnapping, and then kidnapping of we've seen kidnapping of reverend fathers, we've seen kidnapping of a lot of people, but then some people come out to say probably it's because you have, okay, to put it, I actually read somewhere on the social media where someone said that probably is because we agreed to the religious, that's the Muslim ticket. That's the reason why the spate of insecurity has drastically dropped. Do you agree?
Well, with the last line of your words, I want to say that insecurity or security of our nation has nothing to do with Muslim or religion. But it is a people. Lack of understanding between the people and the security operatives. Why? Because the security would take it that it is their sole responsibility to protect the people. The people too must have the understanding, because we're in a country of 200 people, and you have about, maybe if you have 500,000 security operatives, or 1,500 or 2,000, as the case may be, they can't protect everyone. So there must be an understanding between these security operatives and agencies and the people, the leaders of various communities, the leaders of local governments, the people are appointed into various government agencies to come together and secure the nation. So it starts from home. Every security of our country starts from home. From there, you now proceed to your next door neighbor. You now look at the community. You look at the locality, and you go to the state. So security is not the sole responsibility of the government alone, but they have a greater part to play. They have a greater part to play. So security, people talking about that it has reduced because you have a new government or maybe a superior power to play. No. You see, in 2015, we had Boko Haram. And from 2015 down to the just concluded 2023 elections, you had banditry, kidnapping, though we had it in 2014, from 2007. You see, people, when they know that, okay, the government is, they are changing their plans, they'll go back there and form something else. So they will go back and re-strategize. So security is not a one-time execution. Okay. It is continuum.
Okay, so I see that you are the team lead of Get Involved Nigeria, and in my mind, I'm trying to understand what exactly do you do as that civil society organization? Because anyone that says Get Involved Nigeria means get involved in security. It is your business. See something, say something. So what exactly do you do, and how do you get people involved in matters that concerns them?
Okay, we're advocacy ambassadors in all the local governments. We advocate for a free and egalitarian human society. We point at the right, we point at the wrong, and we bring people together to follow the right paths. Because, gone are the days that everybody will just sit at home and be playing a blame game. This one will blame the government. Somebody, while on transport to somewhere, will be sitting to blame instead of taking actions that are supposed to be taken at that particular time. You don't sit down and blame the government. You allow things to work the way it should be.
But then would you say that the government have allowed things to work? Because like you said, transportation, you even pass through the Free Readers Association. Everyone is throwing blames, saying that the government have not even done what they agreed or delivered on the deliverables that they promised Nigerians. They say we're going to cut cost of governance, but then how much have you done in your own path before you can now ask us to trust you?
I think what you're referring to indirectly is the current price of petroleum product.
Everything,
okay.
All inclusive.
Okay, so let me get you involved in these things. You see, it's rather unfortunate that government is taking this decision very late. The removal of fuel subsidy ought to have been done many years ago, but then it is not late. So if you did not have it in the successive past administrations, you can still get it done anytime. It is better done now or never. If it was not done many years ago, you still have opportunity. So this government have taken a proactive action, and many others as identified to make sure. See, we all have to, take the pains, take these decisions once and for all. Maybe it's going to, when you see, if you want to bring down the old structure of this this house, it will cost more money to bring down the structure and build another one. So what the government is doing is what they should do right now. The people should just bear with them. Within the interval of 1 year or 2 years, everything will return to normal.
Okay.
Yes.
I bring it to you, Ibrahim Mujtaba, convener Sight and Sound Renewed Hope. Now, I'm going to talk to you as a Nigerian first. He said that Nigerians should wait and they should keep watching because we should have hope. So would you say that with all that you dated down during that campaign or before the campaigns and what you have in your Sight and Sound of Renewed Hope, is it aligning with the current realities?
Well, before the inauguration, we had a critical look at the manifesto and also related national and even global plans relating to the SDGs, some of the agreements over the years among ECOWAS, EU, and narrow it down back to what was obtained in that manifesto. Then we understood critically that it has to do with different facets of the economy: security, women, digital economy, social well-being, and foreign policy, education, so many things. Then we now said, okay, it's okay, we've done a lot in the build to the election. Now we're not going to fold our arms. Also, we've also learned from so many of the challenges of the previous administration, some of the programs that they came up with, some of the challenges you faced.
So you say we as Nigerians or as
Nigerians? Okay. But I'm just limiting it to the group, like the think tank. They might not necessarily be part of our group, but they might be just generally Nigerians, people that are enthusiastic about development. So when I say we, I mean, okay, me, myself, other groups and other Nigerians that are enthusiastic about development. So we look at all those, then came up with a blueprint. So okay, now we have to be a watchdog of the government, from the executive, legislatures, and the state assemblies. We came up with different components. I might not necessarily need to mention them, but we came with different components that has to do with people understanding about the policies of government, or reanalyzing some of the implementations we've witnessed so far. Talking about the fuel subsidy and the cushioning of the effect of fuel subsidy. I subscribe to the narration that the average man in the street should witness an immediate succor. One, by doing two things: government coming up with an intervention as form of investment, then the common man in the street having a departure on the reliance or over-reliance on PMS economy. So that means...
Okay, so help us break this down into bits and pieces, because it looks like big English for some people, some of our viewers.
Okay, when I say over reliance on PMS economy, I mean, okay, you need this commodity for your day-to-day management of your product, be it you're a farmer, or you need to transport yourself, or you need to transport your good. Now, okay, there are options. For the transportation, you come up with, you think of something. When I say you, that means people operating in that sector. Because if people don't patronize their business, there's a challenge. So they have to, and this PNS, has like a ripple effect. You buying the commodity and you being in business. So you have to come up with some sort of a replacement. Maybe like
gas,
for instance.
Oh, really?
Electric cars and pooling system. Pooling system works, instead of me to individually transport my product, I and my neighbor that's doing the same business will use a pooling system to engage in our.
What is a pooling system?
Pooling systems, it works perfectly well in the US. They use a model called Monte Carlo simulation. So that means you are likely to use the same channel to transport one thing or the other, that's goods and services, use one central medium, which is okay. Instead of you to now do it independently, you do it as a collective. So you save more money, even though you use one single channel. That's the vehicle, the whole pool.
But isn't that what the market women do? Those in the urban areas, the rural areas rather, isn't that what they do? Like have one trailer load and all the market women come together and let's use this channel and transport our goods and services. Okay,
not necessarily that way.
Oh, okay.
The pooling system works. It's like a link of multiple businesses. I'm just trying to bring suggestions that people can have a departure from reliance on PMS economy. So we look at all those things, and we also going back to your question of, is it really the reality? Now you have a global situation. Okay, now you have a controlled FX regime. That's okay. Your official forex is being controlled.
That's the harmonization.
Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, you say you're gonna float the naira. So that's gonna, investors, markets, they'll be happy, but the ordinary Nigerian will feel the effect.
But does it make investors happy? We've seen some multinationals leave.
Okay. Why I say investors? When I say investors in markets, like the stock markets, they're happy because now they'll be able to say categorically the currency floats between base maybe 100 naira margin or 50 naira margin than in the past, that they know, okay, it's officially 400, but the reality of the market is 700, 800 as you can obtain it. So now the willing buyer, willing seller strategy, as well as the floating of the naira, you can see it's going to be sustainable, because we, generally Nigerians, both government and people, we're not doing what will strengthen the naira. That's balancing the trade, focusing more on export than import. Then also government programs, the African Continental Free Trade Area, we're not really leveraging on all those opportunities and agreements that are available at our disposal. Okay. So you won't be able to see, okay, categorically it's gonna work, except if we gonna now be looking at things within what is available to us. That's the laws, the opportunities, and the like. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to rephrase my question before we go on this break.
Okay.
Sights and sound. You told us what all that you dated down before now, and then I hear you talk about women representation. Yeah. Now, in all that you are seeing now, would you look back at your sights and sound, what you had on paper, and compare with what we have in reality? Starting from, let's leave the fuel subsidy. Let's talk about the ministerial nomination. Let's talk about women representation, the 35% affirmation that they talked about. Yeah. Let's talk about youth inclusion. Would you look back at your sights and sound and say, okay, this government is doing good in XYZ area?
Yeah, I'll commend them halfway. they started on a very good note. If you look at the ministerial nominees, you've noticed that there are a lot of technocrats. Some you've never even had their name, but if they're explaining or rolling out their profile, you'll be able to see, okay, there's something that they've done in the past. I know, okay, there are also politicians involved, but significantly, I'll give them a half score, 50%. Like for women, 35%. We have like 18, half of that margin. So significantly, I won't commend them really well, but at least they start on a very good note.
Okay. So, Comrade Iberedem, would you agree that with all that we have right now, with the youth representation, the affirmation, and then some people come out to say, it's just this ministerial nomination is just like recycling old people again. But yes, you are still the ones that are saying, the future, the youth are the future leaders of tomorrow. But then it still looks like you're recycling old governors. And then some people come out to argue with the fact that the same people that were not elected in their states, you decided to make them a minister. Why? Do you agree with this argument?
Well, let me assume that this administration is in a football team that are playing together between one team and another, and they are barely 90 minutes.
So it's too early to judge?
They are barely 90 days, and as of today, I think the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the mandate carrier of the Renewed Hope mandate, is just 71 days. 71 days.
So are you saying 71 days is too early?
71 days for you to judge is too early. So, but from what we have seen on ground, from the realities on ground, ministerial nominations, you have a balance, inclusion of both the women, the youths, and even the elders, because you cannot completely evacuate the elders here. You cannot completely bring in the youths completely. You cannot completely bring the women to take over the entire space. No. So there is a balance between the elders, the youths, and the women.
And then for those who make the argument that if their states' citizens refuse to elect them, why make them a minister? Do they have good reason to argue?
You see, because it involves politics. It also involves technicalities. Because when you talk about governance, there is difference between governance, legislation, and politics. So when they are giving appointments, there are criteria for, recommendations and a nomination of anybody to be, given any position. So I'm very sure the president and members of his team or members of the Renewed Hope, they have sat down, to really look at reasons why they are nominating, some of these persons into the ministerial list. And I'm very sure that the persons we have in that cabinet, they will not disappoint Nigerians.
All right. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll go straight to our next leg of the conversation as we discuss security. We'll discuss Niger Coup versus the ECOWAS resolutions, and that's where we'd actually anchor. Thank you so much. I'll see you after this time out. Join us again. Let me use the Nigerian language. What concern monkey and butter? Butter not be monkey food, so it's not none of our business. But then it is our business.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to take the headline from yesterday's newspaper. The Guardian newspaper says stakeholders to Tinubu sending troops. They say sending troops to Niger is akin to leaving leprosy to treat ringworms.
Well, it's
do you agree?
It's a complex situation. I want to look at it from, let me go back to the 1960s when we started witnessing all these conspiracies. That's military takeovers. Some refer to as illegitimate takeovers, and the reasons for such takeovers. Shortly after independence, it happened before Nigeria's own. It happened across the SWAP region, and then it became a thing. So many factors caused it. So you see Mali, Burkina Faso, then mixed Guinea, then Sudan, here, Niger in the middle. So now Niger. So that you have a ring of countries from the west to the east, all taken over by a military junta. And now Nigeria, all these guys, these countries, you can travel by land without any sea. So they are linked to each other. It's a thing of a concern to ECOWAS generally, since they are part of ECOWAS. If nothing is done, of course, the soldiers in the next neighboring country will now think, oh, why not us as well?
If you just joined us, this is The Conversation, reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Right now, if you actually just joined us, you missed out on a whole lot. But then our guest on the show today is Ibrahim Mujtaba, IT and development expert, and also convener, Sights and Sound of Renewed Hope. And we also have pastor and comrade Iberedem Eshiet, who is the team lead Get Involved Nigeria initiative. All right, before I went on that break, we've actually touched on quite a number of things, but then let's come back to you and talk about, I saw a particular video that you did where you were asking the federal government, you were insisting on a security symposium so as to look for lasting solutions to Nigeria's insecurity or the security challenges. So what exactly are you aiming at? Is it so we need to bring everybody on board and then discuss this, because we have had so many symposiums before now, we've had so many summits before now. So what difference will these do?
Oh, thank you very much for asking me that. You know, when we came up with the Sights and Sounds of Renewed Hope series, or when we were coming up with the blueprint, we came up with a component called Open Partnership. That open partnership seeks collaboration with both government and other civil society players. So the Get Involved Nigeria initiative conceived an idea, and we came together. Okay, why don't we look at the current realities of what is happening in Nigeria and come up with something entirely different? We're not saying, okay, that we've not had similar activities or similar programs in the past, but let's come up with something that will have like a lasting impact among all of us. Now, if you're to look at the past, we've had national conference or during the military junta. Also, we had the one during 2014, President Goodluck, and we also had the recent one organized by the 9th House of Representatives. There's a special summit on national security, special security summit, and it has its almost 121-page report. Then again, the NSS 2019. There are recommendations on what each of the players supposed to do. Both the state actors, constituted security agencies, and us in the society as non-state actors. So we found out that most of these recommendations ended up being paper recommendations. I'm not going to say categorically that nothing, particularly NSS 2019, the Office of the National Security Advisor, are implementing some of those programs, and it has strings of, like it's stringed to other national development programs. So you can't say categorically it's not being implemented, because the other players needs to implement their part of national plan. That's the development plan, ERGP in the past. So we noticed since 2019, even to refer to that plan, so many things have happened. COVID, global recession, upheavals, and the likes. So now we decided that let's come up with this national security and proactive governance summit, not summit, but a lecture series, which will be like a 3D, but it's going to have a workshop style. It's going to be a technical lecture series, not the regular one that you just come and listen, but you're going to be part of the problem identification, then collective mindset, the shift and reorientation to come come out with long-lasting solutions within the factuality of the identified problems. So that's why we think, okay, this one is entirely different, and it involves all stakeholders, right from the top, the president, down to the grassroots. So that's why we think this one is different, and we are optimistic that the resolutions definitely will be a departure from lamentations, then rather than problem identification and solutions to those identified problems, because it's going to be a collective work of all. It's not going to be a forum where this one will now say, okay, they have not done this, they have not done that. Okay, what's the reason? Who has not done what you're claiming, for instance? That's okay, you've identified the problem and you've agreed that, okay, now you're going to be committed. When I say you, that means both the constituted authorities as well as us in the society. You're going to be committed to find long-lasting solutions to that identified problem that's hindering our growth and development.
All right, so I bring some question to you, Comrade Eshiet, here, because I hear him talk about Get Involved Nigeria came up with this, and then we decided to get it done. I recall the last conference held by the ninth National Assembly, like he mentioned, and then during that constitutional conference, you still have some people who say the right people who are supposed, like I recall the Army of Ife saying that the right people who are supposed to be on this round table are not there. That's the youth. So how do you get such people involved? I'm going to ask you two questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now that's one on the side. And then secondly, how do you make all of those recommendations they don't end on paper and then they become something that we run with and see solutions happening? Because a lot of people at the sight of lecture, they just feel like let's go talk and no much doing.
Thank you very much. The National Peace and Unity Symposium and Lecture Series for 2023 is going to be an action-oriented lecture series. You see, this is the beginning of administration, a new administrative year. So it is pertinent and important that we bring the leaderships and the people together so that we chart a course, so that when at the end of the administration or at the end of every year, we'll make a review and count on what the government has achieved. So it is going to be a stakeholder completely and a compulsory stakeholder participation, starting from the president, who is the leader of the country, down to the traditional father, who is representing the people. Down there, you have the governors, you have the legislators, both National Assembly and reps and the Senate. You have ministers that are about to be assigned portfolio. You also have heads of other government agencies, service chiefs, and other security operatives in the country. So it's going to be a delegate participation. It will not be like we come, we deliberate, and we take tea and go back. At the end of the day, we have record that, we had a security summit. No. It's not good.
Because most people just believe that some of these summits are just spending money, getting money and spending money.
We will have a summit that every line of documentations will be followed up. With the resolutions, in 6 months, we'll have a time frame. 6 months, what has been done, we'll have a report.
So who does this follow-up?
It's going to be an annual event.
Who will do this follow-up? Because our major problem is not execution or implementation. It is follow-up.
We're here. We are going to follow it up. Yes. And you see, we are good enough that we'll have a president who is not intimidated by, some decisions of individuals and people over the years who have caused the leakages of our economy. Because what you find today, the challenges that we are facing today, there is someone somewhere, there is a group or individuals who caused these leakages, or perhaps people who were appointed into a position of authority, or some government sectors, there was a mistake somewhere. So we'll have a president who is going to be looking at things very critically without fear. So when we make our recommendations, we are going to follow him up. We're going to follow it up bumper. We'll have the traditional fathers at the end. We'll have the government at the side. We'll have the security operatives. The security of the country is not, like I mentioned before, it's not the duty of the government alone. It is a people. So when we have these lectures, we'll balance it up with what the government has done and what the people have done. So when they bring a development, a project to your environment, you can't go and obstruct it. Go and intervene, bring thuggery, and you destroy the government efforts, and you expect, the money to come from elsewhere. It is the resources of our country. So if you destroy it, of course, you know what that means. So the security lecture is going to be an all-inclusive and action lecture series.
All right, so we're looking forward to that security lecture. Now let's divert a little bit and then talk about the Niger coup. Some people will say what concerns, let me use the Nigerian language, what concerns monkey and butter. Butter not be monkey food, so it's none of our business. But then it is our business.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to take the headline from yesterday's newspaper. The Guardian newspaper says stakeholders to Tinubu sending troops. They say sending troops to Niger is akin to leaving leprosy to treat ringworms.
Well, it's
do you agree?
It's a complex situation. I want to look at it from. Let me go back to the 1960s, when we started witnessing all these conspiracies. That's military takeovers. Some refer to as illegitimate takeovers, and the reasons for such takeovers. Shortly after independence, it happened before Nigeria's own. It happened across the sub-region, and then it became a thing. So from 1966 to all the way down the 80s, it's a thing in Africa, until somewhere in the 90s that we started witnessing political stability. Okay, people then decided, okay, these guys, since most of the reasons they give for these takeovers, they are also culprits of such reasons. So it has not changed. The same reasons that were given in 1960s were the same reasons, but the events have changed and the situations have changed also. It started reoccurring in 2020. Of course, we witnessed COVID and the economic challenges that are associated with it, and also the fact that successive governments have not really done well, and that resulted to anger. That resulted to anger among the general populace in all countries, in African countries, and some like it's democracy, but you find a situation whereby you have a president that has been there. They'll just do constitutional review and he'll be there for so many years. So now back to the question whether it concerns us or not. It's a thing of a concern, because now if you look at the ring of coup d'etats from 2020 to date, Niger was the 6th coup. Started from Mali. An analyst opined that it might happen in Burkina Faso. These guys, coup cannot happen if there's no frustration in the society. So frustration in the society is what the military, looked upon to legitimate their takeover. Of course, the anger, and of course it has to do with governance generally. So many factors caused it. So you see Mali, Burkina Faso, then mixed Guinea, then Sudan, here, Niger in the middle. So now Niger. So that you have a ring of countries from the west to the east, all taken over by a military junta. And now Nigeria, all these guys, these countries, you can travel by land without any sea. So they are linked to each other. It's a thing of a concern to ECOWAS generally, since they are part of ECOWAS. If nothing is done, of course, the soldiers in the next neighboring country will now think, oh, why not us as well? So,
okay, so
as
do you actually think, because I had a guest at one time, the last guest I had said that the reason why we should be more concerned is because the man in Aso Rock presently should be scared that if Niger Republic goes ahead with it and then they succeed, then maybe his military guys might wake up tomorrow morning and then say, okay, we decide to pick up our swords. And I saw a particular report coming from the Chief of Army Staff saying that Army will defend Nigeria's democracy at all costs. So we should not be scared of that. So
yes.
Does it have any link?
Okay, let me relate to it with another perspective. The same military guys that took over, now they legitimize what they did with the fact that they are nationalists. They are protecting the integral unity of their country. But if you look at it from another perspective, you find out that most of these countries are Francophone countries. You know, they are French allies. And now there's this anger, or they're tired of, you know, their over-reliance on France. And their military presence have not really addressed some of the challenges that they faced. So that's also another factor to look at why they might want to take over. But now, if you look at it in our own perspective, Niger is our immediate neighbor. We share so many things in common. Currently, it's already an underdeveloped nation. And the northern part of the country has faced different humanitarian, crises in the last decade. And you don't want to escalate such humanitarian situation. You can fold your arms and allow, a neighbor to do whatsoever they want. You want to stamp your authority, but military intervention should be your last option. You have to look at it from, okay, ECOWAS or Nigeria, since we take a lead, we have to ensure the resolution of the situation. We have to ensure that the coup, or whatever they might want to call it,
justified.
Is just not justified. A diplomatic resolution. We have to ensure, not military, whatsoever the case may be. The ousted president, he needs to be. We need to ensure that nothing happens to him. Then the military themselves, they need to know that, okay, this is not something that we want to romance. That's ECOWAS. So you're doing that, but you have
the
to
timeline that ECOWAS gave for them to reinstate President Bazoum. It is elapsing already.
Yeah, you have different cuts of diplomacy. Now you have to also remember that other regional powers, foreign interest, are looking at the situation. They are looking at the situations. They're analyzing who does what, and it's all about interests, of course. You're talking of resources in the sub-region. You're talking of also interest. So now, Nigeria, we need to. It's an opportunity for us to become that regional power that over the years have been, the
giant of Africa.
Yes, yeah. So how can we do that? Now, if you look at foreign interests, U.S. Foreign powers, U.S., France, Russia, you find out that, okay, they intervene, or they come up with aid, or they give you a technical assistance if they're gonna get something in return. So we have to, because we had ECOMOG in Sierra Leone, Liberia, we get nothing out of it. I'm not saying that, okay, we take over Niger resources, but it has to be in a form that, okay, we have some sort of business or trade benefits when we are to embark on such diplomatic mission.
All right, before we finally, I'll bring the question to Comrade Iberedem, but before we get to him, I'm going to ask you that same question again. Sending troops to Niger akin to leaving leprosy to treat ringworms, and then we saw that the Senate decided no to that military action. But then the electricity or power that you give to them, you decided to take it. And then I hear you say we should be careful of the kind of intervention or the kind of resolutions that we put forth. But having this done and then asking that the military should is that even a way out at all? Or even bringing sanctions, just like the ECOWAS decided to. We've seen how much sanctions that went through in the Russia-Ukraine war, and we were thinking that we're not supposed to have that war going on even up until now, but it's still there.
Yeah, when there's sanctions, the country affected looks for options in other places. Responding to the electricity thing, you know how it's like it's a violation of an agreement, because these guys wanted to construct their dam because of course River Niger went through their territory. They said, okay, no, how about we giving you, because we need the source, we need the water, the flow of water to power our own dam and electricity. How about we giving you the electricity instead of you to also tapping from that free flowing river that started from Futajalon. So we agreed, and that's how we've been giving them electricity. So now, that's why I say it's a complex situation. ECOWAS resolution is not just done by Nigeria, it's among 15
the heads of states.
You know, there's the military or the security arm of it, there's the economic arm of it, and there's something, and there's another thing that we've also not mentioned, SENSAT, like community of Sahel, sub-Saharan states. We had the Abuja Declaration in 2018, that's 6 years back. So we agreed that, okay, we are going to protect all these sub-Saharan states. So that's a violation by doing a military takeover. So violation will result to another violation. But what I, as an individual, will call for is the escalation of the whole situation and ensure that the option of diplomacy, however difficult it might be, will be used to reverse the situation.
All right. All right, so let's end with you, Comrade Eshiet. I saw a particular report coming from Professor Usman, who said that the war on Niger Republic is war on northern Nigeria. Do you agree?
Before I get to the war on northern Nigeria, I want to first of all highlight the perspective that Nigeria, being the giant of Africa, on note, should not interfere in what happens in Niger.
Okay.
It is very wrong. You see, if we allow these issues to continue, it will ring around other nations of Africa. So Nigeria, being the giant, and as at now we take the lead, we have to intervene. And if there is anything the president of Niger did, the Nigerian diplomats and other diplomats all over the African nations will go there, sit down between the military and the government of Niger. They sit down and settle it, and maybe at that time they would have reached an agreement, and the military, they will settle the whole issue. So now, you see, between the northern Nigeria, that's your question, right? We have a link between Niger and the north. And you see, people misunderstand when we say we should tackle, what is it called? Is it Boko Haram? And what's the other one? What's the name? Insurgencies and all of what is named. You see, as a trend, you wouldn't know if there are leakages. We have linked to all these countries. People can be trained illegally, and they will also use them illegally. So the battle, between those countries, it can extend to us. And the president, if he does not take decisions, it will affect us in the long run. It will affect us in the long run. I'm not a security operative to really have an insight about that. So, but that is the reason why our organization too is looking at how we can bring all the critical stakeholders to formally have a consultation, since we're having a new administration, to have things under control, both in development and security. Having the people together, having the security together, and the government sector together, so that as we are moving in the next 1 year, we'll know what we're going to achieve. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time with us, Pastor and Comrade Iberedem Eshiet, Team Lead Get Involved Nigeria Initiative. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you.
Thank you very much.
And Ibrahim Mujtaba, IT and Development Expert, Convener, Sights and Sound of Renewed Hope. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
All right, Nigerians, that's where we leave it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have been chatting with Ibrahim Mujtaba and Comrade Iberedem Eshiet. And it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. How time flies when you're discussing serious matters that concern our very own country, Nigeria. Till I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabel Orji. God bless you and yours, and God bless Nigeria.